Okay, coming in at number 4, you knew he was going to be there, you just didn't know where. Number 4, Notorious, B.I.G. It's Biggie Smalls, it's Notorious B.I.G. My goodness, what can we say about Biggie Smalls? This guy probably, if he was around longer, he might be number 1 on this list. One thing that I did say in the preamble is that longevity was an important aspect to this top 5. And you know what? If you really think about it, a top 5 dead or alive is really the Hall of Fame of hip hop. And you know, we'll expand this topic into different topics. But when we're doing the top 5 absolute best hip hop MCs, all things considered, Biggie Smalls is gonna be in there. And that's only with what I would say 2 albums for the most part. Now, the thing about Biggie is that he wasn't there a long time, but he probably shone brighter than anybody else. My analogy for you older guys would be Gale Sayers of the Chicago Bears. If you ever watch football videos and listen to guys in their 60s speak, they're going to talk about Gale Sayers as the greatest athlete they've ever seen. I think he played 2 seasons, but his impact on the game was so great that he's an all-time great running back. And I think the same for the Notorious B.I.G. His songs are just timeless, but his flow was impeccable. You know, the minute he dropped, they declared him the king of New York, and that's a big deal in hip hop. You know, Biggie was a storyteller. He was lyrical, and he had bangers that still play to this day. And I think the most important thing is there's going to be 2 albums that I'm going to talk about today. And Ready to Die from Biggie Smalls is, in my mind, one of the 2 greatest hip-hop albums of all time. All right? If you got the number 1 or number 2 greatest hip-hop album of all time under your belt, you make Johnny Five's top 5 dead or alive hip-hop MCs. Okay, so before we get to number 3, I would just like to have some honorable mentions in here. Now, giving honorable mentions, that's gonna somewhat give away who's not on this list. But you know what though, we gotta do this at some point in the video, and so we might as well break the news to you right now for all of you guys who and gals who are gonna be disappointed in this list. Okay, so honorable mentions. Let's start with the old school guys. One thing you're gonna notice on this list is there's not gonna be anybody from the quote unquote 80s. And I thought about it hard, and you have to understand, for well into the 2000s, I was pretty convinced Kool G Rap was the greatest MC of all time, and if it wasn't him, it was Rakim, right? Some of you might say Big Daddy Kane, but eventually, over a long period of time, other MCs and their work and the level they raised the game to really just moved them in front of some of these, what I'll call classic MCs. So, on that list that was considered for the top 5 dead or alive, all things considered, are Rakim. Okay? You look in the dictionary for rapper, you're gonna see Rakim's face right there. That's all I'll say. It's almost like the voice of God in hip hop. His contemporary, Big Daddy Kane. Is anybody better than Big Daddy Kane? I don't know. This guy is so fresh. I just love his style. He had all of the lyrical gifts, but he also spoke to a broader crowd. He just didn't speak to the brothers in the streets, if you follow my metaphor, and it is a metaphor, so don't give me a hard time about that. What I'm trying to say is that Big Daddy Kane, in the same way that we look at Biggie Smalls, he expanded the fan base for hip hop, okay? He made it something that women wanted to listen to, where you might not have got that from Rakim, okay? So thirdly, from that old school generation, my favorite of the 3 is the aforementioned Kool G Rap. Most of you guys watching this video aren't going to know who Kool G Rap is, but I'm going to highly recommend that you go check out his album. I think it's called Ill Street Blues, the album with Ill Street Blues on it. When that album came out, the best rappers were saying he was the best rapper. I remember reading an article at the time And it had Bushwick Bill and Scarface and Ice Cube, and to a man, they all said, oh yeah, he's the man, he's the top dog. His nickname in hip hop was the Ghetto Shakespeare. He really raised the game on a writing level for the hip hop MCs. He really, and man, you know, you listen to his stuff now, and who's better? You tell me. All right, another old school so back it up just a bit. Any one of those three guys could have been in my top 5 dead or alive, right? And if I would have picked Big Daddy Kane, the Rakim people would have jumped on me, and vice versa. And if I would have picked Kool G Rap, a lot of the people would have said, hey, you know, impact on the community. Kool G was just too underground, where Big Daddy and Rakim were at the forefront of the late 80s hip hop movement. And then, you know what, you cannot forget, and I considered Slick Rick for number 1 on this list. Look, if you don't know Slick Rick's music, you're just missing out. But you really do know Slick Rick's music, because his vocal samples and the things that he said and the swag that he has had so much impact on all of hip hop music. I'm listening to it with my daughter, and she's like, man, I didn't know he's the guy who said that. Well, that's all you're gonna hear when you listen to Slick Rick. You know, you just got to go back and do your homework. But yeah, Slick Rick could have been number 1 on this all-time hip hop list. But as I said, one of my big considerations is half of the people who listen to hip hop, maybe more, don't even know who Slick Rick is or Kool G Rap. And you really can't be the greatest of all time, a la the Beatles, if everybody doesn't know who you are. Okay? That seems pretty reasonable to me, Snoop. You get it? That's how it is. So some of us old guys, we need to take a step back and understand that there's more to hip hop than our 1989 perception. Okay, last but not least, for honorable mention is the white boy himself, Slim Shady. And man, was it a hard decision not to put him at number 5 on this list. But I just had to compare him to Kendrick. And you know what? Kendrick's, in my opinion, his music is better. Okay?